Good afternoon, good evening. So, guys, how have you been? How's this wonderful community doing? Firstly, I'm very glad that there are lots of members coming through from all over the world. And as I said in one of my previous posts, it's amazing that environment or our industry is such a multicultural environment and doesn't really, there's no other place that gives us this kind of an opportunity. And it's awesome to see how well it's doing. So thank you everybody who is coming in and contributing to this effort or this mission that I am on and this vision that I have for everybody. But today was something that today I decided to go live because I wanted to discuss something on the tennis mindset. And I am still trying to check on my Facebook page whether this is transmitting or not, because my Zoom says that we are live on Facebook. Ah, we are live. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. This is crazy. This is crazy. Anyways, I have to keep the computer switched off and then check on my phone whether we are live or not. So, anyways, listen. But whoever's around, thank you for being here. And I just thought I'd pop by and talk about what I call the tennis mindset. And, those of you who know me know that I'm a tennis freak. I'm a complete tennis freak. I'm not a sporty person at all. I'm not particularly someone who enjoys sport from the point even though growing up in India, I've never been a cricket fan. I know. And now living in the UK, I'm not a football fan. So yeah, I think there's enough reason for both countries to disown me, but that's who I am as an individual. But the only sport that really, really gets me going is tennis. And I think from an early age, I've always been very intuitive. I've always looked for what is it that people are doing to gain success? What is it that what's really happening in that situation where one person can succeed and another one does not? And tennis for me has always been a classic example of proving, what really makes the difference when one wants to achieve success. For one, tennis is the only sport that you're competing one to one, which means you don't have a team to back you up like you have in cricket and football and rugby and other team sports. So it's really you against the opponent as an individual. And finally, it relies completely on yourself as an individual to make, a win out of the match that you're playing. Now, there have been a lot of counter arguments saying that it's the same in boxing. But in boxing, there's a slight difference as compared to tennis, is because in boxing, you have the breaks in the rounds and you still have your coach, not your coach, but the coach of the boxer who's helping and guiding and, passing on strategies at every stage. In tennis, it's not like that. Once the match begins, it's up to the player to make, a win out of that situation. The player in tennis is not allowed to receive coaching during the match from the coach, who's obviously sitting and observing the whole scenario. They're not allowed. It's up to them while they're on the court to decide what they're going to do. So it's not only about having the skill to play the sport, but it's also having the ability to strategize during the match. And more importantly, the dynamics are diverse. You don't know as a tennis player who your opponent is going to be in that match. In the sense, you might have some practice history, and if somebody is at a championship level, then they've obviously known their rivals and their rivals' games, etc. But otherwise, they don't really know who the opponent is going to be. So without really knowing who you're going to play against, you can't decide a strategy in advance. You can decide a certain extent about what's your skill, what are your strengths in terms of what strokes you're going to hit, etc. But you can't really, the rest of your strategy has to really just come about once you're in that match. So really, as a sport, it finally depends on just the individual to make or break. So why am I talking about tennis from the point of success, other than all of these? Um, so really, when in a situation where the skills are unevenly matched, so let's say that one player is stronger than the other, you're fine with using the skills. Yeah, the person is fine with using their skills to win the match. But in a scenario where the players are equally skilled, where the skills are completely, at the same level, so like we see with the champions, in the current environment that's going on, the current tournament, the Roland Garros, which has been moved from summer to autumn, you see that there are top level players who are very evenly matched in terms of their achievements and their abilities and their skills. So how, or what is it that one person is doing to overcome the other? In fact, funnily, yesterday there was a match that went on for 6 hours, and it went the whole way. So those of you who understand the whole scoring in tennis, it went into the 5 sets, and I think the final set score was something like 17-19 or something crazy like that. So really, these two players were absolutely neck to neck and they were equally matched. So what is it that happened with one player that gave him that little bit of an edge to go further? And really it boils down to three things, from all my observations and all my years of watching and now trying to play tennis. It really comes down to three things, over and above your skill. And those three things, in my observations, are: how does the player keep himself calm? Yeah. So the first thing is, how do they keep themselves calm? What is it that they start believing when they lose points? So the first one is obviously how they keep calm. The second one is, what is their belief or what's their mindset in a situation when they've lost the points? Because when you've lost points, you're obviously not feeling great, or the player's not feeling great. So they've got to recover in some way to get on to the next point. And how quickly can they think of a change of strategy? Yeah, because obviously if you've lost points on the court, then you need a new strategy to win them back or to take the lead and catch up and things like that. So really three things that the winner is doing differently from the person who didn't win. I don't like using the word loser because it doesn't sound nice. I just don't like saying it. So you've got, firstly, they're staying calm, very, very calm. Secondly, what is really happening with the mindset and the belief when they're losing the points, which means that are they able to hold on to a successful mindset or a winning mindset even when the points are getting lost? And thirdly, what is the strategy that they're changing as they're going along? And that's what creates the winner, in a very tight situation. There's a couple of more things I wanted to share with you about this, is because, tennis is one of the only sports that has, over the last 10 or so years, been dominated by just three people. And those of you who've been watching tennis, you know who they are. We're talking about Roger Federer, we're talking about Rafa Nadal, and we're talking about Novak Djokovic. They're just three people who've just dominated that scene. And they haven't really let anybody else break through. And what I wanted to share is each of their specific nuances that have been proven as the reasons for their success. I know this is not a tennis coaching lesson. It's just a lesson in mindset, or it's just a session in mindset. So if we talk about Roger Federer, the element that has been attributed to his level of success, or what is the one thing that is unique about him that has created so much success for him, and it's boiled down to his breathing technique. Yeah, believe it or not, guys, it's not about his skill, it's about his breathing technique. So like I said, if all skills are equal, what is the one thing that makes a difference? And in Roger, it's about his breathing technique. Now, He supposedly uses a lot of this very, very deep and low belly breathing technique, which always keeps him in a very calm state. Whoever's been watching tennis and watches Roger Federer knows that he's always very, very calm on court, no matter what's happening. And that boils down to his breathing technique. So he's got that first aspect of how to remain calm no matter what the situation is, because once you remain calm, you can think clearly, you can figure out what's going on, and you can then change your strategy on the go. So he's already got the first one in place in spades. Then we talk about Novak Djokovic. What is the difference in him? The skills, as we said, are matched, which we saw in last year's Wimbledon 2019 final, where Roger Federer was on match point or championship point, and Novak's mindset was so strong about what he was believing in that situation that he didn't give up. He didn't give up, even though his opponent was on match point and could have taken the whole tournament. He still went on believing that he was going to win the next point. So in Novak's case, it's about his mindset and how strongly he believes what he can do to still win the next point. Yeah. And our third of the big three tennis guys is Rafa Nadal, who's personally my favorite. I don't know if anybody's been following me on Facebook. I post a lot about Rafa Nadal. It's because for me, it's not about his playing technique, and it's not about one specific thing. It's really the whole package. It's obviously he's very, very skilled, but he is one example of somebody who's changed a weakness into his strength. And that being because he's naturally right-handed, but he's learned to play tennis with his left hand, and he's made his left hand much stronger very strategically, because on a tennis court, when there is a left-handed player playing against a right-handed player, in general, the left-handed player has a bit of an advantage because of the angles at which the ball is struck and things like that, the whole geometry of it. Yeah. So he's one person for me who's used his weakness and converted that into a super strength, not just a strength. Yeah. So he plays with his other hand. The other element about him is that he has a very, in the tennis world, if you listen to the commentators, they talk about the Zen approach. So he's never focusing on winning the match. When he gets on the court, he's always focusing on, how am I going to win the next point? How am I going to win the next point and the next point and the next point? Because it's all of the next points that finally add up and create the winning score. So it's really about focusing on the next step to be taken, and how well and successfully do you take that step. And that's the one thing he does. The third element about him is that he makes adjustments on the go. And when I say on the go, it's like he could possibly be starting out trying to hit a certain shot, but then he will change a strategy right there, and the whole shot will change and go in a completely different place, which creates the win and the success. The fourth element is, it doesn't matter what round of the match it is. It's not about just playing in a final. He goes on full power from the beginning, which means that even if it's the first point of the match, he puts in all the effort, all of the energy, all of the power, so that it sets up the momentum for him going forward. And lastly, if you listen to any of his interviews, he will say one thing, that especially interviews where he's lost a match and he hasn't been successful in getting to wherever he wanted to go. There's one thing that he never analyzes on the what ifs. He's always focused on what is it that didn't work for me in this match, and what changes am I going to make going forward. So there is no what if, or I could have done something differently, or I could have this, or I could have that. There are no what ifs, So all of this is about, finally, it's about, a combination of mindset tools and strategic tools, that he embodies and he uses so effectively, and it's almost as if they're part of who he is, as if, as an individual. um, and while no, we're not going to have a virtual match, as I said to you guys, what I want to share is about how can we inculcate the tennis mindset into our daily jobs, into everything that we do, into our businesses, into our careers, so that we can sustain our success and excellence. Now, in the current environment, there are obviously a couple of things that are going on. There are people who have managed to retain their jobs, which is great. Congratulations to all of them, and wish that it carries on really well for all of you. There are some who have unfortunately been furloughed, which means they don't know what's going to happen for them, their careers going forward, depending on how their hotels reopen and things like that. For them, I mean, what is the mindset that you have currently? So how are you changing your strategy on the go, to create a different result for yourself? And obviously, thirdly, people who are business owners or hotel owners or managers, and you're responsible for bringing in that revenue. So what is your approach? How are you keeping yourself calm? How are you carrying on believing or focusing on the next point or the next step? So these are really the things that we can apply and, sort of take from the tennis world, and how, champions perform under pressure, in the worst and the best of circumstances. And how can we apply these into our situation, especially so in the current environment, to move forward continuously. So mindset techniques is something that I love. I use them on a daily basis in my life, in my personal life, in my professional life. And I also teach them, under Hotelier Excellence. Our belief is that success is 80% psychology and 20% skill. So in Hotelier Excellence, we like to focus our 80% effort on the psychological and the mindset, communication, all of those skills that really help create success, and 20% is your job skill. So if this is something that interests you, and if this is whatever I've said makes sense to you, then I'm happy to share all of these mindset tools and techniques that are used by champions world over. And you can apply them in your daily life, you can apply them in your work life, you can apply them in your personal life, wherever you want to apply them, because these are so flexible. And so if this is something that interests you, register your interest in the link which is below or above, depending on where this video goes in on the Facebook page, and let me know. We will keep you posted on all of the workshops that are going to come up, and you can be a part of them and you can benefit from them as much as you like. Okay, so it was great being here, guys, and I will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.